welcome once again to the arrivals for leg 8 in Newport. The Inmarsat finish line has already seen the majority of the boats cross it. Now it is the turn to get to the concluding factors. We have got Turn the Tide on Plastic, Team AkzoNobel out on the water, and they have been locked, absolutely locked in an incredibly tight battle as the breeze has refused to play ball. And right now, Conrad, it does look like Team AkzoNobel have got the jump over Turn the Tide on Plastic, and they're going to be the first boat to cross the finish line.
It's absolutely incredible. This team has been working incredibly hard, and it does look like they've got the jump on Turn the Tide on Plastic. We've been watching the tracker play out, and there are countless tacks as this team have fought with Turn the Tide on Plastic. There have been tacking duels, there have been covering action. This has been an absolute match race to the finish, and it looks like the Dutch boat has come out on top.
And it will be a 5th place finish for Team AkzoNobel. And remember, this is a team that has featured in the early stage of this race very high indeed, and they deserve to be finishing well, but they have cruelly, for Turn the Tide on Plastic, pushed them back into 6th place. As Simeon Team Point there, just doing a big bow down. Potentially, that was the moment as they came through the line. We haven't yet seen any celebrations, but it certainly was a big bow down. And Team AkzoNobel with Simeon Team Point at the back of the boat, now approaching that finish line. So not too sure what that huge turn was. Maybe a little bit of an obstacle in the water, something to avoid just at the last minute, which certainly might reverse their fate. But with speed, 7.5 knots for Team AkzoNobel. I mean, these are some big numbers compared to what we've seen the other 4 boats creeping across the line with earlier.
Yeah, on the screen here in the studio, we've got the tracker with all of the routes of all of the boats, and it's been this incredibly convoluted pile of spaghetti of these tracks weaving their way into Narragansett Bay. And unlike the other boats that have had to fight for every inch, they've had pressure all the way through, even though it's been light, but there have been tacking duels and fights all the way to the finish. So incredible to see such diversity, even with just a couple of hours in between.
We're just seeing some scenes now on Team AkzoNobel, and I'm going to admit here, I'm not 100% certain what's happening. We are furling the masthead code 0. Certainly when we looked on the tracker a moment ago, I don't think I saw them crossing the finish line, but the crew do certainly seem happy with themselves. We've just lost the image from the rib. There we go, the tracker, just a momentary moment behind the live picture. So Team AkzoNobel have come through the finish line. Perhaps rather telling, no large scenes of celebration on board. As I was saying, a 5th place, a good result, but not a result that this team has grown accustomed to. They have had their leg win, they have had some very strong finishes indeed, and I know that they consider themselves to be a real contender in this race, and arguably, rightly so, but a 5th place finish it will be in leg 8 for Team AkzoNobel. A little bit of a chance now to congratulate themselves as they come through, and to a certain extent, as they come through the line now, that kind of puts the long legs, the big bulk of the Volvo Ocean race behind them.
As an offshore sailor myself, I dispute the fact that a transatlantic is not a leg of significance, particularly with the double points, and that's what this team, along with everybody else, is going to be setting their sights on. But certainly it was interesting to see them fight tooth and nail all the way up into the bay from Turn the Tide on Plastic. As you say, a bit of a disappointing leg that they were sort of trailing in this 4, 5, 6th position for most of the leg. And it's going to be interesting to hear from Simeon Team Point if he can sort of wrap it up and summarize exactly what their challenges were during the course of the leg. One that has proven to be a lot more complicated than we initially suggested.
Very, very complicated indeed. I mean, not least in the last 5 hours. I mean, we have been on air here since the mid-morning, shall we say, in Alicante, and it has been absolutely non-stop. Constantly changes, constant upsets, constant coming through the boat in front, and in the end, it was Mafre just before the finish line that pipped Team Brunel to take the win. Team AkzoNobel, they didn't manage to get themselves up into that top 4 or that top 3, but they did manage to sail past Turn the Tide on Plastic. Di Cafari and crew, with Nico Lundgren, the navigator, electing to sail to the western side of the exclusion zone, a move that arguably, I mean, I put my hand up as well, I thought was pretty brave and potentially very powerful indeed. But it didn't work out that well for Turn the Tide on Plastic. Now the breeze is finally with them as they reach into the finish line at 8.5 knots, but it's too little, too late. Team AkzoNobel, having outmaneuvered them on those last few tacks and gained the lead, they have crossed the line just ahead of them, and it will be 6th place for Di Cafari and crew. And while I'm sure there's going to be a mark of the occasion, finishing a leg, an important moment in any of these sailors' sailing career, a milestone achieved, but no real celebration, because this team, not that long ago, was staring a victory or a potential podium very much in the face.
Yeah, it's this is a tough team to judge by any account, because they're the runt of the litter. They're the youngins in this edition of the race, and yet they have lofty ambition. They're carrying the message of turn the tide on plastic, and yet in the same breath have always said that they're here to win, they're here to fight, and not just be an also-ran. And so they've had sniffs of that. They've led leg 6. They performed very well in leg 7. Now in leg 8, they were leading again, both with boat speed and with tactics and navigation. So little by little, the package is all coming together. And remember, this is a team that has got 50-50 male and female, which gives them the advantage of having 10 people on board the boat. So they've got extra hands to the pumps. They're able to work harder in the shorter legs, and their day in the sun may still come.
Oh, may still come. I mean, if this leg was finished a week or so ago, it would have been a podium finish. If it was finished maybe 10 days ago, they would have won the leg. The argument, I think, therefore, is that the shorter European legs might work out very well for Turn the Tide on Plastic. I know you've been saying in the daily shows, keep an eye on this team as we get into the latter stages of the race. And I do think that it's a positive that this team will not be satisfied with this result. It would have been very easy for this boat to take the underdog approach and just say, well, you know, we're here, we're competing, it's great. But actually, they rank themselves with some of the best sailors in the world, and they've certainly outsmarted them at times in this Volvo Ocean race. So as you say, fans of this boat have every reason to feel confident. However, for Turn the Tide on Plastic today, it just did not go their way. Team AkzoNobel, the next boat in a long line of boats that outwitted them in this final approach to the finish line, the breeze being very unhelpful to Di Cafari, and Team AkzoNobel sailing in from the eastern side with pace, closed the distance, and then just managed to thread their way to the finish line and cross that Inmarsat finish line a little bit ahead of Turn the Tide on Plastic. We're going to be able to hear from the teams in a short while, and then we'll be able to see how the sailors wear the jubilation with the final performance, or also the hardship of being denied a result that arguably they did deserve. And also to come, we've got Sun Hun Kai Scallywag. That was a boat that was 230 miles behind 2 days ago. Now, however, they have really closed down the distance. And Sun Hun Kai Scallywag absolutely rocketing in with the breeze as the rest of the fleet have slowed down and really piled into each other in the lighter winds, and now just 6 miles away from the finish line. Absolutely phenomenal to think how close that's become.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, we often look to other sports to find parallels about how we can best explain this. And I've got 2 points that I want to make here. One is Turn the Tide on Plastic is within a fraction of 1% of the leaders. And so they're doing everything right. It is just the final little details that come into play. But then also with Formula One, everybody likes to refer themselves to Formula One, and we need to talk about the fact that things are a little bit different. It's not the race stops when the first team goes across the line. You do have to fight for every single small position out there on the clock, and so you know, we've seen Sun Hun Kai Scallywag pile in. They're now just getting into the lighter conditions that we're seeing the other boats experience, and so those last 6 miles will be taking their time, as well as taking a toll on already tired sailors after 6,000 miles.
Oh, and Turn the Tide on Plastic now take the sails down as they make their way into the dock. Ahead of them will be Team AkzoNobel, the boat that outwitted Di Cafari. But Simin Team Point and crew are certainly looking to higher things in this Volvo Ocean race, a boat that's had a very impressive finish to leg 8. But there's more to come, as we've known that this boat battled all that nature can throw at it over the last 16 days. See Newport.
I think we had a good plan on the start, but just a few seconds after the start, you're in such a critical position and just fell a little bit back. It happens, and but we recovered well.
We're not going so well this morning. We lost a lot first night here sailing, so just reshuffling the weight of the boat and trying to see if we can get a few knots more boat speed.
You're starting to approach Cabo Frio now, and there's quite a lot of cloud up on the corner. It's quite a big corner, so it's where the wind does a bit of a bend.
Just had a, you know, section of clouds, and we end up getting a little split. Vestas and turn the tide on one side of the cloud. You know, you've got to be in the game for a bit further down the track.
The last 24 hours we've had a few opportunities with clouds, and so we've been doing a lot of maneuvers. So I don't think a lot of people have slept a whole lot. We've been, the other boats are all the time in visual contact, so it's quite a bit of racing going on.
If you enjoy lack of sleep, then there's a high benefit in being this close to boats.
I think we should be pretty happy, but the whole fleet is sort of in a line from west to east. So yeah, it's trying to stick our neck out. That's the cool thing of this sport, right, is that motivate yourself.
We did have a good skid. We're currently back in the hunt for the lead, which is nice. And there's strategy this evening to try and push through these clouds, take as many shifts as we can, and into the trade winds on the other side, which should be more left shifted.
We've just crossed the equator and we've started getting into all of the sargasso seaweed, and that's all the kind of this brown spiky seaweed that we see everywhere.
We've just escaped the doldrums. It's a little bit harsh on us. We coughed up quite a few miles on the other boat, so yeah, it was tough times, but we now are in the trades and we're making good ground, and plenty of time ahead to make up some ground. So.
Waiting for about a 165 before we can jibe, and then make our way hopefully straight into Newport.
We are jibing towards Newport.
Well, there we have it. Team AkzoNobel now across the line. Turn the tide on plastic, just a little way behind them. But the race is not over yet. We've got Sun Hunkai Scallywag coming into finish, and this was a boat that was a long way behind a few days ago. But now, they've certainly closed up that gauge. D Kafari, having crossed the line, they will be, well, disappointed with that result. There's no other way to say it. A boat that was absolutely firing on all cylinders in the early stage of this race. But they are now across the line, and that is the result that is going to stand. But behind them, Sun Hunkai Scallywag, starting to enter in, has got to sail through the same breeze, the same tricky conditions from what Turn the Tide on Plastic have been sailing with. It's been an incredibly tough finish for Turn the Tide on Plastic. And just remember how well it started for them. This has been an incredible display of what this team can do.
Boy, we came from nothing. All we want is to shine. When it's all
so we've just left beautiful Tajo. Sad to leave, but looking forward to getting up to Newport.
all on the line. Put it all.
We are really close to Dongfeng and Mafra. I think it would be a good fight until Newport.
But I paid no mind long as you pay me on time. You boys don't really want it.
After 3 days upwind, we were leading the pack, and now we are the eastern boat, so we think that's going to pay off. But it's quite risky because all the fleet is on our west.
We did 15.1, everyone else did 13, 13.5 and 12. We're the leaders of the pack.
I'm not sober, I need a chauffeur. I'm feeling lucky like a 4-leaf clover. Boy, we came from nothing, all we want is to shine. When it's
a really annoying blue boat catching us.
Put it all on the line. Boy, we came from
Today, hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll be in Northeast Trades and on our way. So we really need to hang in with these guys so that the opportunity at the end could be ours.
We're doing pretty well at the moment, but boat speed's really good. At the moment we're in a podium spot and we're fighting like hell to keep that spot.
The race for third is full on. between Vestas, us and Mapfre. I'm gutted. Why do the final miles have to always be so bloody difficult? With all these transitions that we're going to go through, there's everything to fight for, and everyone desperately wants a podium place.
When it's all or nothing, put it all on the line. Put it all on the line. Put it all on the line.
Well, as you heard there, Di Cafari and all the crew desperately wanted that podium finish, but it wasn't to be. Sadly, Turn the Tide on Plastic takes 6th place in leg 8. There is still one more boat out on the water though, and that is Sun Hun Kai Scallywag. They have had a very difficult, very challenging second half of this leg, but they have caught up unbelievably. It was 230 miles. We were expecting them at times to be finishing maybe half a day, maybe a day later, but now they are just within 6 miles of the finish line. And while they're not sailing too efficiently towards the finish line due to the angle of the breeze, they are moving. So we can expect Sun Hun Kai Scallywag not before too long. We're going to take a little bit of a break here at Race Control, and then we're going to be back to hear more from the sailors and to continue our live arrivals at the finish line in Newport of leg 8. Welcome back to the arrivals. Turn the Tide on Plastic and Team AkzoNobel have already crossed the finish line. Sun Hun Kai Scallywag is the only boat still on the water racing, but they are going to be some time. What we have now is we have reactions from Team AkzoNobel arriving on the dock, and we can hear from the sailors about an unbelievable end to an incredibly tricky leg. A quick chance for the sailors to be reunited with friends and family, something that's bittersweet. But of course, apart from just the human adventure, we are also out there for the points. And for Team AkzoNobel, as well as all the teams, this leg is going to see a real shake-up in the overall and a real moment that we're going to be talking about all the way to The Hague. Conrad, we've seen some big moves in those final few moments. Unfortunately for Turn the Tide on Plastic, it was Team AkzoNobel that got the better of them. Simeon team point after this leg. Happy, do we think?
Tough one to call.
Yeah.
Tough one to call. I think that they sort of underperformed during the course of the league. That they were sort of frequently in the sort of 5th place position. But as soon as they were there, they paced the rest of the fleet, and they just couldn't make it back into the leading pack. So I think that they had a couple of clouds that didn't go their way, and then they just couldn't make it back. So it's not really a reflection on the team or any deficiency in teamwork or speed. It's just that they had a tough deal of when the cards and the chance got played out, and as I talked about extensively during the course of this league, the clouds make a big difference in the way that the league comes together. And it's not necessarily skill, it's not necessarily positioning, it can just be pure chance.
Well, pure chance, but, very close indeed with these sailors. Team AkzoNobel now coming into the dock. We're going to be able to soak up some of the atmosphere from the sailors and hear from the skipper as well to get an idea of just how well they are feeling about this leg come to the end of the conclusion. It wasn't too cruel for Team AkzoNobel. This was just about the best result that they could have hoped for in the last 2 days as we were coming into Newport. It was some of the other teams that got dealt a cool blow, or, like Mapfre, got lifted up to an absolutely fantastic finish. But either way, Simeon Team Point and the rest of the sailors will certainly be keeping their eyes on the overall scoreboard, and they know that time is running out to close down on those last few points. We have been seeing some great performances from Team AkzoNobel, but we need to start seeing a little bit better. Well, Simeon Team Point reunited with family along with all of the crew there. Nikolai Siersted and Emily Nagel just deciding who's going to take responsibility for the flag. And Chris Nicholson also on the deck at the moment. I'm just waiting to see if we can hear a little bit from some of the sailors there. Luc Manoy with family on the dock, and a little bit of a chance of a handshake from everybody. And behind them, straight away, we have got Turn the Tide on Plastic coming in. And, well, Conrad, this is going to be an interesting moment to see the faces of the crew on board Turn the Tide on Plastic.
Yeah, it is. I've hypothesized a little bit about what the reaction and the feeling is going to be on this boat. No, this is a team that is still developing, and but I think that they're going to be disappointed overall. But I think that the focus here, like we've seen from the other teams, is to turn this around, focus on the legs to come. There are still lots of points on the table. And this is a team that is becoming stronger and stronger and stronger as the race goes on. And so they're becoming more and more capable to go and get those points for themselves.
Well, a little bit of a cross celebration there with Mafre, Tamara Echegoyen, and Turn the Tide on Plastics, Francesca Klapchis, just congratulating each other at the end of a very tough leg indeed. And smiles from Francesca, but she is known for being pretty much upbeat all the way around these races. She's absolutely a competitive sailor, an Olympian. Dee Kafari with some smiles as well. So maybe, once we take the racing result to one side, as always, these sailors that go up against some of the most extreme conditions that the world can throw at them, they're happy just to see this chapter of the adventure come to an end. We're going to listen in now as the interview.
A great reception for you here in Newport. You were winning for so much of the leg.
It's the story of our lives, isn't it? We had a really good leg, and we thought our battle was going to be with some other boats, and then out of the fog came AkzoNobel from nowhere. So it was a good race. A bit of a shame we floated in the fog at the end, but and obviously disappointing finish. I don't know quite how we're going to change that, but it started so well.
I mean, this is the one that you were right there throughout the whole event. You were leading a ton. What is for the last few days to hold on to it? I guess my question is, you've blooded a bunch of rookies at the beginning, and now you're absolutely fighting for every inch.
Yeah, we just got to find out what that final inch is that a red boat like Mafre has.
Yeah, well, they sailed very well. Just tell us about some of the highs and some of the lows during the leg from Brazil.
Well, definitely the high was leading for so much of it. It was quite a tricky leg, and we had some good fun. We had a birthday on board, so we had a lot of fun, and obviously it's great to arrive in Newport.
Well, Simeon Timpont here from AkzoNobel, he said his feelings were for you guys. He felt they were pretty lucky to get around you, and he was sorry after such a great leg for you.
That's very considerate of him.
Right, next time I hope you're going to beat them, right?
Oh yeah, that's the plan.
Well done, Dee, congratulations. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, give them a huge round of applause. Dee Kafari and her amazing team on Turn the Tide on Plastic. Okay, we're going to do the ceremony. Okay, we're going to do the Rhode Island flag.
Congratulations, Skipper, and welcome to Newport.
Bianca, Liz, Henry, we'll get you all up here, and it's a welcome to Newport. Federico Mella, the American, born in Washington. That's not in my notes, but it is now. Federico, the American, say yee-haw.
Congratulations.
Turn the Tide on Plastics crew on the dockside now, and they seem pretty happy. They seem to sort of, wear the highs and lows pretty well. And one thing that we do know, these are very experienced athletes, and I'm sure that in their fair share of victories, they've also had their fair share of defeats as well. So, like any athlete in any sport, familiar territory, of course, but we know that they are hungry for more. We also know that time is running out in the Volvo Ocean Race. We are now just facing 3 more legs to go. And Turn the Tide on Plastic will be desperate to make their mark in this race on the finish line, like they have done in so many moments of the leg. Amy Monkman is down there on the dockside, and let's hear what the crew have got to say.
Thanks, Nell. I'm here with Blair Tuke. Blair, we were just watching Turn the Tide on Plastic dock in on the screen behind us. We're in the Volvo Pavilion. This is obviously where you guys love coming to after a leg and, you know, having a burger and a few drinks or whatever. But we were talking and you just said, oh, it seems so strange. You know, just a few days ago we were behind them. I mean, that must feel like a lifetime ago, right?
Yeah, it certainly does. We've really up against it from pretty early on in this league when we found ourselves right back in sort of 6th place. Yeah, quite far behind Turn the Tide. They'd sold a great leg, and you know, battling out with Akzo, and then, you know, now we sort of find ourselves finishing a few hours ahead of them and in 1st place. So it's pretty crazy. It's been a really full-on couple of days, but you know, we took the opportunities when they came, and really pleasing for us.
I mean, you guys have done an incredible job. This is probably one of the best comebacks in the history of the race, but I think that you know, it wasn't without its struggles, was it, with your electrical problems? I mean, just talk us through what that was like. Talk us through what happened, first of all, and then talk us through what that was like on board, you know, as a crew, realising that you were going to face an uphill battle all the way to Newport. Surely you could never have imagined this finish.
Yeah, well, basically we were already quite far back in the fleet behind the leaders, and we had an issue charging our batteries, and as we went to charge them, we blew basically the main fuse out of the batteries, and then that had a downstream effect which blew some other fuses and blew basically our PLC, which controls a lot of things on the boat. So yeah, once that was gone, you know, we couldn't control the keel like we normally do, so to alter the cans on the keel, which you normally do from the helm station, you know, with just a click of a button as a helmsman with the feeling of the boat. You basically had to send someone downstairs to do it manually, which was pretty difficult. So yeah, very often, yeah, you know, not quite so often, because it was hard for us to do it, so you didn't want to have to send someone down all the time. So, you know, it hindered our performance a little bit, I think. But, you know, even with those issues, we sort of kept the belief, I think. You have to, when you're back, you have to believe in yourselves. If you don't do that, then you're never going to get anywhere.
And one of the favourite relationships for the fans who watch the race is obviously the relationship that you and Pete Burling have. And when I walked in a few moments ago, I actually saw you both sitting down and chatting and having your food together. Well, I mean, you can't be his favourite person right now. What kind of thing do you say to each other in that circumstance?
Yeah, he was pretty annoyed at us, I think. You know, they were very close to winning the league. They'd sold a great league. You know, they've certainly improved a lot the last few leagues, and you know, a real threat for the end of the race for the overall, I think. You know, but we got the opportunity, we came back, and, you know, once we had them in our sights, we weren't just going to sit there and take second. We wanted to bet past them, and, you know, pushed right to the end and managed to get one last good shift with an extra attack sort of out into what was meant to be more current, and yeah, got past them. So yeah, pretty crazy for us to just literally happen within sight of the finish line. So yeah, they'll be gutted, but, you know, we have a bit of a laugh about it, and you know, share some other stories from the league too.
And you speak about Team Brunel being a threat overall, as our Dongfeng race team. Let's just look at the bigger picture for a second. The point situation now as things stand, and going into the transatlantic leg from Newport, Rhode Island to Cardiff in the UK, that's the last double points leg of the race. Just tell me how important that is for you guys and for everyone.
Yeah, I think the next leg, the transatlantic's, you know, the most important leg of the race. We've said that first boat into Cardiff is probably going to go a long way towards winning the race. You know, we knew that before we won this leg, and that's still the case now. You know, if we don't do well this next leg, then we're going to be up against it to try and claw back points in the two short legs at the end. So we need to push hard. It's going to be a full-on leg, a short dash, and, you know, potentially some good conditions too. So yeah, it's all on for this next leg, and it's nice to be in the position now where we're not having to make up a big chunk of points like it was looking like a week ago. We're right there with them, you know, a couple of points ahead. So yeah, we're going to push hard. We're going to learn from, you know, mistakes there, and we're ready for it.
And do you know if there'll be any crew changes for the next leg?
No, I think so. You know, hopefully everyone, you know, we've had a few little injuries and stuff on board, and, you know, hopefully Sophie will be good to come back. So yeah, it would be nice to have one extra pair of hands on board. It was certainly pretty tough this leg. You know, it was a very difficult leg anyway, with, you know, the thunderstorms and the sail changes on the way up the Brazilian coast. And then have that with doing it with one less person is pretty hard. So yeah, it was a massive effort by the crew, and, you know, everyone's looking forward to a rest now, and recovering, and as long as we're all good to go, then we'll be back to full strength for the transatlantic dash.
Last question. We're in Newport. We were just talking about what you're going to do with your time off. It's going to involve a lot of napping. What are you actually going to do with your time off? Are you going to enjoy Rhode Island? Are you going to head to New York, Boston? Tell us.
Yeah, well, I've been to Newport once when I was like 15 or 16, so it'd be nice to explore here again, and you know, hopefully just try and recover a bit, lots of sleep, and you know, maybe this weekend or get down to New York for a couple of days. It's a pretty amazing city, so might as well. Well, we're nice and close.
All right, well, at quite a controversial time, 10 a.m. in the morning or whatever time it is, we'll let you go to bed, Bledchuk. Thank you very much. Niall, back to you.
Thanks, Amy. Blair Tuke talking to Amy Monkman in the Sailors Pavilion, just recharging the batteries from after the leg here, from after an unbelievable finish that has just wrapped up. We've got Turn the Tide on plastic. They're safely on the dock. We've got Team AkzoNobel alongside them, two boats that were locked together in a very bitter battle. But of course, like all these sailors, once the racing is completed, then it becomes a chance to recognise what incredible feat just sailing these distances and just achieving these challenges are. And as we see those sailors sort of mingling together, it is quite inter-team. It is sort of friends on different boats. It's coming together, sharing stories.
Yeah, a lot of these sailors have sailed together on previous campaigns or on previous boats, and it's great to get a little peek behind the curtain there, as we could look over the sailors' shoulders and sort of see that, sure, there are a bunch of red jackets on one table and a bunch of blue on the other, but they do intermingle, and we can get another view into the background of the race, and the fact that they are all bitter enemies out on the water, but good mates and good friends when it comes to sharing a beverage. And it looks like a bit of parfait or sort of dessert going on in the Sailors' Terrace there. And so I can tell you that there is nothing better than anything that you eat after you've been at sea for a couple of weeks. So it doesn't matter what it is, it's always spectacular.
Emily Nagle just running in for a big hug with Bianca Cook and Stacey Jackson from Vestas 11th Hour Racing. As you say, all these sailors, they know each other. They all go up against the same ocean in the same conditions. It's pretty hard work out there. And one sailor that joined Team Brunel has had to learn pretty quickly what the Volvo Ocean Race is all about from her Olympic career. Nina Curtis, and Amy Monkman is with her now.
Thanks, Niall. Nina, this has been, well, they've thrown you in at the deep end, really, haven't they, with this race? How are you finding it so far?
Yeah, pretty good. The last two legs have been a complete opposite to each other, with a lot of wind in the initial leg and then really light and crossing the doldrums for the next, both being really long. So I'm on a really steep learning curve, but it's been a lot of fun.
And we talk about your friendship with Kyle. Obviously, you two have known each other a long time. How long have you known each other?
It's the same question. Like, we met when we were like 15 or 16. Yeah.
Okay, and you're on what, watch system together, is that correct? You've got a watch system going?
Yeah, we're watch partners as well, so.
And there are a few fantastic pictures where it looked like you were cooking for him, but I'm not sure that was the case. You looked like you were sharing a meal together after a long watch. How are you?
We were breaking bread.
How are you finding being part of the team? And obviously knowing Kyle is a bit of an advantage, but how are you settling in with the rest of the crew?
Yeah, the guys are fantastic and they're very patient, because obviously I have little to no experience on boats this size, so yeah, everyone's been super patient and helpful, and they're lovely, really lovely guys, until King Neptune came.
Well, exactly.
And then it was awful. Yeah, they weren't kind at all.
Yeah. I was going to say, you're being very, very complimentary, but that was quite a brutal, possibly one of the most brutal ones we've seen in recent Volvo Ocean Race history.
Absolutely. I got absolutely hammered. Yeah. Hair, eyebrows, like brewed, freeze-dried, the boys' piss bucket. What else?
Which, just to clarify, was not actually.
No, they pee. It wasn't actually wee, no, but they made it look like it just to add to the terror of the whole thing. That was Carlo.
Thanks, Carlo.
And yeah, it was, they were really mean. It took me, I think I was like quite upset for like a few days afterwards. I tried not to let it show, but I was, yeah.
And you joined in Auckland and you had the incredible high of the Southern Ocean leg, which was a fantastic leg for you guys. Which obviously when you're in a team, everything's going well and it's fantastic. And then, you know, here you had a bit of a rough finish. Just tell us what that's like, you know, and how important team spirit is in a tough situation like that.
I think that the team performed really well throughout the race, and we like held a strong position like throughout the whole race, and losing it at the end, you know, when there's like really tricky conditions like that, it's just yacht racing. So there's, the team spirit is super high and the guys are great, and I think that we're on a really like steep curve and improving all the time. So yeah, it's exciting. I'm excited for the next leg, and hopefully we can keep building on the improvements that we've made.
Well, you speak about the next leg, and I was just talking to Blair Tuke earlier, and he said that you guys are obviously a threat in the bigger picture. Coming up to the next leg, which is the transatlantic leg from Newport to Cardiff, and a double point leg. How important is that now for your team?
Oh yeah, obviously double points is super important, and especially while we're seem to be like climbing closer and closer to those two lead boats. I think it will be an important leg for us, but you know, we'll just regroup now, and I'm in good hands. You know, the guys are really good at, you know, taking stock of the last race and seeing what we can do, for the next one.
All right, well, thank you for your time. We'll let you go back to... Oh, no, I've got one more question for Kyle. How much are you looking forward to the next leg?
The next leg's going to be great. I think the double points, we've got like a lot that we need to catch up to kind of get ahead of Dongfeng and Mapfre before the end, and it was unfortunate that we couldn't get the extra points here for this leg, but I think the next one's a big one, and you know, we're keen to kind of step it up. And the good thing is it's a short one as well, so it'll be short and intense, so it'll be over quickly, but it's going to be full on, so we can't wait.
All right, well, we'll let you guys recover and get back to your food. Thanks for your time, and now back to you in the studio.
Nina Curtis and Carl Langford from Team Brunel. And that brings 6 teams back to the dock and 6 teams worth of sailors into the pavilion and recharging. There is still one boat, however, out on the water, still to face that incredibly light, tricky, tidal estuary into Newport. Sun Hunkai Scallywag at the moment making very good progress. They had a bit of a tricky period with the breeze, but it seems to have filled in for them. And right now they're actually sailing in a little bit more of a southerly breeze than we've seen. So progress looks good. Just a little shy from 10 knots for David Witt and crew. And we will be back on air as Sun Hunkai Scallywag come across the finish line, but we're going to take a little bit of a break just to recharge our batteries, as I'm sure the sailors are as well, as an unbelievable finish starts to come to a close here for leg 8. Mapfre taking the bonus point for the win, and just sailing around Team Brunel at the last few moments has really lit up the overall scoreboards. We'll be back on air in just a few moments when Sun Hunkai Scallywag cross the finish line for more reactions, and we'll see you then.